Good morning. It has been a long time since I have sat down and done a tutorial, and somebody asked me if I would make a bigger Izzy doll cat. So we probably can't call it a Izzy doll cat if it's bigger, but I thought, why not? That'll be a bit of fun. So this is my little one that I made. You'll find a tutorial in my playlists, and the poor thing still doesn't have a face. It would look nice with a tail. But anyway, I thought, why not find some big yarn and some bigger needles and see what happens if we use exactly the same pattern, or the number of stitches. So I found this big yarn that I bought a long time ago. Obviously, this one doesn't have a ticket on it. So I either used some of it for something, but I can't remember what. But this is yarn Rosie's Studio, and it is a chunky 14 ply. That's New Zealand Australian 14 ply. We just call it that because it's so fat. And here it is, and you can see how much bigger it is. And I've got three colours, this lovely beigey cream, I'd call it, the black, which is a terrible colour for a tutorial, so I won't be using that, and then I've got this really bright red. So I'd like this in the colour of the cat and this as the jersey, but it might get really dirty, so I think I might make a red cat and just have the jersey in this. So we're going to see what happens. And reading the instructions down here, it says 5.5 millimeter to 8 millimeter needles. So I've got these needles here. If I turn them around, you can read 8 millimeter US 11. So I don't usually say US or UK sizes. I always talk in millimeter because then hopefully everyone knows what I'm talking about. I found this on the internet and I just wrote it out for myself. Needle sizes. And you can see I've got UK, millimetre and US. In New Zealand, my mum had UK. That's all we had. And we didn't have US sizes, but now we've all changed to millimetre. So I've got this, and you can see the corresponding numbers. So here's the 8 millimetre, goes to 11 US, goes to a 0 UK. Now I've still got my mum's needles, but she hasn't got 0. We didn't have such big, huge yarn, I think. She did a lot of small baby knitting. But do you notice something? The UK start at the big numbers and work their way down to little numbers the bigger the needle. Does that make sense? So their smallest needles are biggest numbers. Whereas American, it's much more sensible. The smaller the needle, the smaller the number. The bigger the needle, the bigger the number. And millimetres is followed the same. The smaller the number, the smaller the needle. So yes, I found that very interesting about the UK sizes. But anyway, that's just me rambling on. So here we are, and they make these needles in these bigger sizes so long that I'll have to get a bit sideways under my setup to try and show you exactly what I'm doing. I wish they had shorter needles sometimes for smaller things. My mum has some very short needles in the UK sizes, which are really quite handy sometimes. But anyway, let's have a go. You will find my pattern that I wrote myself, and I called it a pattern or a recipe, and this is in a different video that you will find on YouTube, and I'm going to follow exactly the same amount of rows and stitches, and let's see how big it gets. I have 4 each of these colors, so I'm hoping I won't run out. It won't be that big, will it? It might be. So let's see what it turns out like. So yeah, I've got my red yarn here, so I'll show you how to do a slip knot. Now it's not the best yarn because it splits. So it's going to be a very slow process maybe. So here's how I do my slip knot. I do have tutorials on how to do this, how to knit, purl, cast on and cast off. So you might want to find those if you're a complete beginner. So I go around my finger twice. I hold it down. I pick up the back one and bring it forwards. I just hold that with my thumb while I pick up the new back one, bring it forwards and over my finger. And there you go. There is my slip knot. So I'm going to cast on 32 stitches, the same as for the smaller doll pattern. So yeah, it's not actually the nicest yarn to use. It might be better to crochet with, but we'll just see how I go. So I'll just keep on going till I've got 32 stitches. Okay, so there's my 32 stitches. Now here is my most favourite needle for sewing up. It is called a wool needle, and it's got this nice big hook eye thing here, so I can put my yarn in really easily. I just got this from my local yarn store, so you can take a screenshot. I'm just wondering if you might see it. Oops, try and take a screenshot of that if you want, and see if you can find one at your store, because when you use nice big fat yarn, it just goes through so easily. So this is a nice big extra piece of yarn. I've made it huge because when I do the neck and when I pull the feet in like this, or even if I don't pull the feet in, I put a spare piece of yarn through the first row of stitches, and I can either make it flat like this for the feet, and I can or I can pull it in like I do for the neck. And so you would have seen, most of you would have seen my other tutorials. So I just make sure you don't catch the other stitches. I just wind it through like this, each stitch. So I think my earlier tutorials, I didn't do this. I actually wound it through, I think the snowman tutorial. I need to do that one. I put it through afterwards. Doing it first is so much easier. So I just work my way along. Make sure you don't pull out the other end. I've got a nice big piece here. Make sure you're picking up. You will see under here, I don't know if you can see, I didn't quite catch all the little bit of yarn, but it won't make much difference if I'm just pulling it in. As I said earlier, it's not the best yarn to work with for a tutorial, but we'll make it work, won't we? It'll be fun to see what it looks like. So I'm going to slowly work my way through, because you can see this is taking me a while, and I'll get to the other end. So I will be back soon. Right, so I've got my yarn going right through from one side to the other, and that was quite tricky. There's lots of places where I couldn't get right underneath. My eyesight is not very good. So let's see what happens. But then this isn't about being perfect. This is about having a go. That's what my channel's all about. Have a go. Don't worry about being perfect. If you waited till you're perfect, you'd never start. So let's do what was meant to be the shoes first. It would be 4 rows. And I do it, oops, sorry. I do it in stocking stitch. So we do the knit stitch. Oops, sorry, my off camera. Too busy watching what I'm doing. So I'm just going to knit for 4 rows, or stocking stitch, knit on the front and purl on the back. So this yarn doesn't really slide on these needles either, but that's all right. There's no rush. It's not about being first, it's about being relaxed. It's meant to be a relaxing hobby. So I'm just going to work my way across this first row, and then we'll see what it looks like. I'll be back at the end. Right, I haven't finished my first row. It's not looking too bad. So you just leave that extra yarn in there and you pull that along as you're finishing. So now let's do a purl row. This is row number 2. Make sure you're grabbing the right end. Sometimes I grab the end that's not the working yarn. And then I have to undo it all. So I'm going to purl to the end, and because my needles are so long, it's hard for me to be up under the camera. So I'm going to do the 4 rows in total, so I'll do another knit after this purl and then one more purl row, and I'll come back. There you go, there's my first 4 rows. So when I talk about the 4 rows, let me just grab one of my other Izzy dolls. Oh, do you think I could find him? No, I couldn't. So this is the little farmer boy I made. If you wanted shoes or boots on your cat to make a Puss in Boots, you do the first rows in a different colour. And I made longer gum boots for Paddington, and I made them longer, but if you could have made the rows shorter. So you can change the colours any time you like and do whatever you like. So there's my 4 rows. So now I'm going to do the trousers or the pants. So here's the farmer boy again. So here's the pants. And I'm just going to keep going in the same red because I'm going to have it like this little cat. It's all the same here. If I wanted shoes, it would have been to about here. And this would have been the trousers and then the jersey. So I'm just going to change the colour when I get up to the jersey. And here's Paddington. These are his legs. I didn't really do trousers, same colour as his face, but that's okay. I love my little Paddington with his suitcase. I do have tutorials for all these and several others if you have a look in their own little playlists. So now it says about 14 rows for the trousers, and I'm not sure if I did all 14 on this one. I might have done just like 12 or 11. And the thing is with counting is you always end up with your knit side up, your right side up when I'm ready to change a colour or when I start counting. Don't finish counting so it's this way, unless you wanted to have this the wrong side showing. That actually looks quite good, doesn't it? You could make it all like that on the right side. When you sew it up, you can choose which way you want to sew it up. That actually looks quite good. So I'm going to keep going for some more rows to do some trousers, and I'm just going to guess how many rows I want to make until it sort of looks enough until I want to change to a jersey. So I'm just going to keep going, and I'll come back when I've done some more rows. It's actually easier when I sit back in a chair than trying to lean forward and do it under the camera, and I don't think you want to see me do every single part. So I'll come back soon when I've done a few more rows and I'll tell you how many rows I've done. Well, that took a little while, so I'm back. That's looking really nice. I like this. I'm finding this much easier on my hands and my eyes, been huge. But look at the size difference. It's going to be a massive cat, but it's fun. I'm enjoying this. So I ended up I put a stitch marker in here to make it easier to count. And so that is 14 rows, and I've ended up with my right side up facing me. Now I did encounter a lovely big ugly knot in my yarn, and usually what I do is I will cut it well before I start a row, and I will cut that knot out, and I will join the colour again as if I'm making a new colour. I will join it on the beginning of the row so that the knot is on the end when you're sewing up. I don't usually leave my knots in the middle. But I had already reached here. I hadn't seen it, and I had already reached here. So I managed to make it so the knot came out on the back. But normally what I do is I cut it, and I would have rejoined the red as if I was joining a new colour right on the edge here. And that's exactly the same as how I'll be doing it when I do join the colour now for the jersey. But that's really lovely. But if I didn't have that knot there, I could actually make that my right side for the toy. It's going to be great. I'm really loving this. So for the jersey, I'm going to be using this colour only because the black is too dark for a tutorial. I'm going to make a black cat. I will have to do that on a very bright day, sitting near the window to see the black yarn, and that will not be a tutorial. It'll be too hard for you to see. So I will show you how I join my yarn, which is exactly the same as I've done for the small dolls. And the jersey, it says 12 rows. So we'll have a go at doing that. Okay, so I'm just going to join my colour together. So I'm going to cut a fairly long piece. You know me, if you've seen my other tutorials. One of my girlfriend just messaged me and she goes, "You say tutorial funny." And I'm like, do I? How do you say tutorial? How do you say tutorial? It's T-U-T, tutorial, tutorial. Who knows? That's all right. And somebody else asked me, "Do you get nervous when you do a tutorial?" And I said, absolutely, every time. Every time. It's never perfect, but it's about me having a go and just letting others know that it's all good fun. Right, let's have a go. And there's better ways to do this probably, but this is how I do it. So this is how I show you. So I get the yarn, I stick my needle up there, and I'll make sure I've got a long piece of end, because this is what I sew up with, these ends. So I'll make sure I've got a really long end, and I just go around the needle and I hold it tight, and I hold the red one tight, and I make a stitch. Oh, hang on, let me move those up. And then I make the second stitch, and then I just sort of pull all these tight. I can put it down now without these coming off. Just make sure they're all pulled tight. And I actually make a knot. I'll make a knot in that red one. I'll make a knot in the red one. I've actually forgotten what I do, but yeah, I'll make a knot in the red one. Not so good. They don't come undone. Some people don't do knots, some people don't like them. There you go. There you go. I hope that was on camera, but that's how I do it. So make sure you're using your working yarn again. And it says for the jersey 12 rows. So that's how I join my colours. And that's how I would have joined the red again if I'd cut that knot. I just would have joined the yarn on the end there so that any knots are just down the side. But it seems to be hidden. So there, I'm joining the next colour, and I will just continue now until I've done 12 rows for the jersey. See you soon. There you go. There's the jersey colour done. So when I count, it comes to 11 rows. Maybe when I join back the red colour for the face of the cat, this row will become number 12. I'm no good at counting these things, but yeah, hopefully that's how it works. So far I'm going to end this video, part 1, and give my hands a break. I've been doing this for a few hours now because it takes a while for me to do all the rows. And then I will come back with part 2 later, where I'll be doing the face and the ears and how to sew it all up. And so you can see, if you want to use bigger needles and bigger yarn, it makes a bigger garment or toy. And if you want something even smaller than this, this is done on 4mm needles with very thin yarn, almost like sock size yarn, skinnier than baby yarn. But you could use a really, really tiny needle and make a little tiny one. But I don't like tiny. It's hard on my hands and hard on my eyes. But I'm enjoying this. I might make bigger ones. Isn't this fun? So think of what I can call them as well, because I can't call them monster Izzy doll cats because they're not really Izzy doll now because they don't fit in your pocket. So I'll have to think of a name for them. But yeah, it's gonna be really cute when it's finished. I can't wait. All right, so I'm going to get this video up and loaded so you can see it, and then I'll be back another day soon on how to do the face and the ears and sewing it all up. So I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you enjoyed. I'm back doing some tutorials. It's been fun. All right, bye. Thanks for watching.